not a pleasant subject here. But it's in the Bible, it's what Jesus said. Could you be betrayed to death?
Absolutely.
The way Jesus says it, the answer is yes, right? And betrayal, we're seeing betrayal on the TV. We're seeing, we're seeing businesses get burned down in the name of Black Lives Matter. It's like black businesses being burned down in the name of Black Lives Matter. Go figure, right? Okay, most humans don't expect to be betrayed to death by a close relative. Jesus warns his faithful followers, you got to be prepared. Once we get into the end time, you've got to be mentally prepared. Mark 13:12. Now brother will betray brother to death. Ew. And father his child. How could a father betray his child to death? Whew. And children will rise up against parents and cause them to be put to death. Is this an insane description?
Nope, it happens.
I mean, parents love their kids normally, right? And Jesus is saying it is going to get so wacky, so wild, so out of control that these things will happen. So it's hard to imagine a society like this. Jesus continues in Mark 13:13. He says, and you will be hated by all for my name's sake, but he who endures to the end shall be saved. He who stays faithful till the last breath. No matter what happens, I hate being hated. I don't like to be hated. I don't know of anybody who loves to be hated. I don't know any clubs that say, hate me, right? But if you go on, I don't do it, but if you go on social media, you can get hated in like a heartbeat. Right? You just say the wrong thing and boom, they will come down on you. In Matthew, we see Jesus saying, believers will be hated by all nations. Now, has anybody here felt like they're hated by all nations? All nations don't even know you exist. Right? It's really for a time in the future. Verse 8 of Matthew 24. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you'll be hated by all nations for my name's sake, for his teachings. Right? And the great deception that's coming is the world will believe a human is the Jesus Christ that's returned, like he said he would. And they will call him their Christ, and the true church will say, no, Jesus didn't come riding down from the sky on a white horse, so that's not the true Jesus. It's a fake Jesus. And those who accept the fake Jesus will hate those who don't accept the fake Jesus. And we're seeing hatred sort of pouring out. You turn the TV on and you see hatred running up and down the streets, right? Verse 10, then many will be offended. Can you imagine yourself being offended if people hate you? I mean, it's going to mess with your brain, right? And they'll be offended and they will betray one another and will hate one another. Is Jesus saying in this verse 10, that being offended leads to hatred? Right? I'm having a little trouble myself. I see stuff on TV and I see certain faces and I'm very negative towards those faces. And I want those faces to at least disappear from the political realm. I don't want them dead. Right? I hope I don't want them dead. I'm negative, but I don't want them dead. Right? I just want them removed from the political scene. So they're no longer messing with God's country, right? The 4th of July, the flag, and the great history of America. So we're seeing on TV hateful, angry acts on a daily basis. Jesus faced an angry, hateful crowd on the day he died. Mark 15:13. They cried out, crucify him, crucify him. Now these are the people that had seen him healing people in the marketplace, and said, what a good boy, what a good guy he is. They whipped up the crowd to cry out, crucify him. Verse 14, Pilate said, why, what evil has he done? But they cried out all the more, crucify him. It was a mad, crazy, frenzied crowd saying, crucify Jesus. And God knew this would happen, so he allowed it to happen. So Pilate, wanting to gratify the crowd, delivered Jesus after he'd scourged him, whipped him, and to be crucified. The crowd had been whipped into a frenzy of anger and hatred. They wanted Jesus dead. Right? And we're in a world where the same mentality, psychology is playing out, and we're seeing it. And my little tip for all of you is, if you like wearing a MAGA hat, please don't do it on November the 4th. Don't do it in public. There's no need to cause anger and hatred to come your way unnecessarily, right? But, it's going to be a very different world on November the 4th. In the final 3.5 years during the tribulation, the masses will be pressured into great anger and hatred. We can see this about the two witnesses. They'll be preaching the true gospel of Jesus, Matthew 24:14. This gospel of the kingdom, the words of Jesus, will be preached into all the world by the two witnesses who can't be killed, who will be seen on global TV, and hated. People will see them, they'll say, what is it they're saying? And they won't like what they're saying, and they'll hate them, as we see in the next couple of verses. Be preached in all the world as a witness to all nations, and then, when they're finished their 3.5 year preaching, then the end will come. So who will Jesus use to do this? I don't know, the two witnesses. Verse 3 of chapter 11, I will give power to my two witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,260 days, 3.5 years. And when they finish their testimony, the beast, i.e. Satan, that ascends out of the bottomless pit, will make war against them and overcome them and kill them. So they can't be killed for 3.5 years. Humans try to kill them. Humans die trying to kill them, right? And so eventually humans will give up trying to kill them. But Satan, at the end of the 3.5 years, is allowed to kill them. Their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city, which is a sign of hatred. If you hate somebody so much when they're dead, you don't want them buried. You want them decaying in the street with the cameras rolling, and see that nasty person now. See how dead they are. They're really, really dead. 11:9, Revelation 11:9. And those of the peoples and tribes and tongues and nations will see their dead bodies 3.5 days and not allow their dead bodies to put into graves. This is going to be a great moment in time, right? Because cameras will be rolling. You know how the reporters with the microphone and the camera guy, they go running into crowds and they go all over the place. They're bringing you live action shots, and I really want to see this. I hope, if I'm not there, if I can't see it on global TV, if I'm already dead, I want to see it later on God's Museum of video clips, God's YouTube, right? And those who dwell on earth will rejoice over them that they're dead, and make merry and send gifts to one another, because these two prophets tormented them who dwell on the earth. Because the world is now rejecting the words of Jesus. I mean, they're doing it subtly, but in this case they'll have a fake Jesus to worship. They'll have miracles done by the fake, the beast, and by his false prophet, and they'll have the two witnesses doing miracles and preaching the truth. And most people don't want the truth. People, they just want a great leader to follow, is what most people want. Revelation 11:11. After 3.5 days, the breath of life from God entered in, and they stood on their feet. That's what I want captured on film, right? It's like 3.5 days, the cameras have been rolling. It's now been 2.5 days. It's now the beginning of the 3rd day, and the bodies are still there, and the flies are gathering, or whatever, right? And the 3.5 day mark comes up, and the cameras are rolling, and there's thunder or a voice from heaven, and these two dead bodies sit up. Uh-oh. And they stand up. Oh no, this is not going well. And then they rise up into the sky. It's going to be really good footage.
They're never going to put it on TV though. They
Oh.
won't put that part on TV.
Oh, they will afterwards. God's film crew, not the other, yeah, right. Well, it'd be so shocking that everybody will go, no, this can't be happening, no, right? So at the first resurrection, the dead saints and the living saints will rise to meet Jesus in the clouds, just like the two witnesses rose to meet Jesus in the clouds, right? And most people don't realize that there are three heavens. The Bible speaks of three heavens. Most people only think of one heaven, right? But the first heaven is where the clouds are. The second heaven is the universe. And the third heaven is God's throne out there somewhere, wherever, right? 1 Thessalonians 4:17. Then we who are alive and remain will be caught up together in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and thus we will be always with the Lord. Boy, I can't wait for that. Wherever Jesus goes, I want to be there seeing the action, seeing what's happening. Satan is angry because he knows he will soon be locked up for 1,000 years. Satan can read the Bible, right? Satan knows the book of Revelation, right? Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down having great wrath, because he knows he has a short time until he's locked up for 1,000 years. Even for a spirit being, that's a long time. Verse 7. Now, when the 1,000 years have been expired, Revelation 20, verse 7, when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison. So he's locked away for 1,000 years while God is creating a gorgeous, war-free, peace on earth planet of humans. Satan is great at deceiving people into hatred, right? He got that crowd stirred up, crucify him, right? Satan was behind all of that. Revelation 12:9. So the great dragon was cast out, the serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. Hatred and anger are currently growing around the world. What surprised me was that England was having demonstrations about the guy that was killed over here. And I thought, what? What's the connection there? But it's this. The whole thing is global. The whole globe, everybody on the planet that is concerned with the next 4 years are watching the vote on November the 3rd. They want to know, is the world going this way or is the world going to go this way? Right? And that vote is the all-important critical moment. Jesus warned that this would be happening. Matthew 24:11. Then many false prophets will arise and deceive many, and because of lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold, and I would add, into anger. How many of you saw the young man hit the 92-year-old woman in the face? Anybody see that on TV? That is burned into my memory. This was a 31-year-old guy walking down the street, and the 92-year-old woman was coming back on a walker sort of a thing. And he's just do, and her face is like right in reach here. And for no intelligent, logical reason, he just punched her in the face and kept walking. And then she crashed and fell to the ground, and he must have heard the noise, and he turned back, and then he kept walking. And I don't know what, when you're a spirit being, I don't know what you're going to do with people like that, right? But it needs to be severe. That person's brain is diseased. It's a sick person brain. Anyhow, we're not going to fix it until Christ gets here, because it's getting worse by the day, sort of thing. All right. Lawlessness. Is lawlessness abounding today anywhere on the planet? It's like, you know it. I mean, even now there are people standing around that statue in Washington thinking, can we do it tonight? You think we can do it tonight? Can we do it at midnight? Maybe we could. can we do it at 2 a.m., you know? And then there's National Guardsmen saying, well, what's happening? Well, nothing much right now, but we got some people in the crowds with walkie-talkies, right? And, you know, oh, and there's a big fence around it too, so you've got to break the fence down first because they can't get to it, but they want to. Matthew 24:13, he who endures to the end shall be saved. It's going to get crazy, it's going to get wacky, it's going to go completely out of insane, right? But you got to endure to the end, to your last breath. Verse 14, this gospel shall be preached in all the world as a witness to all nations, and when that's over, when the 3.5 years of the two witnesses is finished, that's when Jesus comes in the clouds in the sky, and that's the end. That's the end of humans trying to control and run and rule the planet, and Jesus just says, here I am, I'm now in charge of all nations, whether you like it or not. Right? And then we have the 7 last plagues, and then the Battle of Armageddon, and then the first Feast of Tabernacles when Jesus gets up and does the preaching. Won't that be great? So when Jesus invades the planet Earth, he will stop wars and stop hatred and stop anger and create a world of peace and joy for all peoples. Isn't that what we all really, really want? That's what a lot of people say they want. Right? That's what Jesus wants. Isaiah 65:17. For behold, I create a new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come to mind. Won't it be great if we can't remember how it is now? Because it's so great then. Verse 18. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I create, says Jesus through Isaiah. Behold, I create Jerusalem as a rejoicing and her people as a joy. Verse 19, I will rejoice in Jerusalem, the new Jerusalem, and joy over in my people. And the voice of weeping shall no longer be heard in Jerusalem, nor the voice of crying. The planet Earth is headed for, after World War III, after the 3.5 years of tribulation, after the Battle of Armageddon, right? It's headed for 1,000 years of peace and tranquility and Sabbath keeping and 10 Commandment keeping and festival keeping and no more lies. I'm so tired of hearing lies on TV, I want to scream, you know. Our world is descending into anger and hatred, but Jesus promises to change it into rejoicing